you're doing it again. That thing you told yourself you'd stop doing? Maybe you're picking at the skin around your fingernails until it bleeds, even though you just did your nails and they looked good. Or you're organizing your collection for the third time this week, moving each piece a quarter inch to the left because something feels off. Or you're pacing around your room, completely absorbed in a conversation with someone who doesn't exist, and you've been doing this for 2 hours without realizing it. And there's this moment when you catch yourself, when you snap back into awareness and think, what is wrong with me? You've tried to stop. You've promised yourself this is the last time. But here you are again. And the worst part isn't even the behavior itself. It's the shame that comes after. The feeling that you're broken in some small, specific way that other people aren't. Because here's the thing that makes no sense. You know it's not helping. You know it looks weird to other people. You might even know it's causing problems, making you late, leaving marks on your skin, taking up time you don't have. But you can't stop. And everyone's got an opinion. Just don't do it. It's not that hard. You're being dramatic. As if willpower alone should be enough. As if you haven't already tried that 100 times. So what's actually happening here? Why does your brain keep pulling you back to this one specific thing? And more importantly, does this mean something is fundamentally wrong with you? Let me tell you what's actually going on. And it's going to sound almost too simple at first. Your brain is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. I know that sounds wrong, but hear me out. Every single one of these behaviors, the ones people call weird or compulsive or pointless, they're all serving a function. Your brain found something that works, something that regulates your nervous system, or provides predictable sensory input, or helps you manage overwhelming emotions. Think about when you were a kid and you had a comfort object, maybe a blanket or a stuffed animal. Nobody thought that was weird. Everyone understood. This thing helps you feel safe when the world feels too big or too scary. What you're doing now is the adult version of that. The form is different, but the function is identical. Your brain is trying to soothe itself, and it found a pattern that works, even if that pattern looks strange from the outside. Here's what researchers found. About 60% of people do these kinds of repetitive behaviors. Nail biting, skin picking, hair twirling. Most of the time it's completely harmless. It spikes during stress, boredom, or transition moments. Your brain is looking for something predictable in an unpredictable world. The behavior itself isn't the problem. The behavior is the solution your brain came up with. Let me show you what I mean with something specific. You know that feeling when you hear a sound that just sets your teeth on edge? Someone chewing with their mouth open, the click of a pen, a specific person's breathing pattern. Most people can ignore it. You can't. And people think you're overreacting, being difficult, too sensitive. But here's what's actually happening in your brain. When you hear that trigger sound, your amygdala, the part of your brain responsible for processing threats, lights up like you're in actual danger. At the same time, parts of your brain that usually help you regulate emotional responses aren't activating the way they should. This isn't you being dramatic. This is your brain processing sound differently than other people's brains. The reaction you're having is involuntary. It's neurological. And that's the thing. Same pattern shows up everywhere. Someone sees you rocking back and forth while you're thinking, and they tell you to sit still. But that movement isn't random. It's called stimming. And it's your nervous system regulating sensory input. When you're overwhelmed or understimulated, Your brain craves predictable, repetitive input. The rocking, the hand flapping, the humming, it all does the same job. It brings you back to baseline. When you try to stop it, when you force yourself to sit completely still, you don't get calmer. You get more dysregulated because you just took away the tool your brain was using to manage itself. Here's what's strange about this. Everyone stims. Bounce your leg under the table? That's stimming. Twirl your hair when you're nervous? Stimming. Tap your pen during a meeting? Same thing. The only difference is some forms are socially acceptable and some aren't. But psychologically, they're identical. Let's talk about the collections, because this one gets misunderstood constantly. You have 200 of something. Maybe it's vinyl records, or vintage spoons, or specific types of rocks. And people look at your space and they think, this is hoarding. This is obsessive. This is weird. But there's a massive difference between collecting and hoarding that most people miss. When you collect something, you're curating. You know exactly what you have. Each piece has meaning. You display them. You organize them. You take pride in what you've gathered. The collection gives you joy. It doesn't interfere with your life. Your space is still functional. Hoarding is different. With hoarding, you're accumulating things impulsively, without intention. The possessions pile up until you can't use your living space. It causes real distress and impairment. One is an organized hobby that provides psychological benefit. The other is a disorder that disrupts your ability to function. So if you've got shelves of carefully arranged collectibles, you're not broken. You're pursuing something that gives your life meaning and structure. But here's where it gets interesting. Even if your collecting has crossed a line, even if it's starting to cause problems, the impulse underneath still makes sense. You're trying to create order. You're trying to have control over something when other parts of your life feel chaotic. You're building a world where the rules are clear and consistent, where you know exactly how things work. That's not pathological. That's human. The question isn't whether the impulse is legitimate. It is. The question is whether the specific way you're meeting that need is serving you or costing you. And that's the tricky part, right? Because you might be sitting here thinking, okay, I get it. My brain is trying to regulate itself. This behavior serves a function, but I still don't want to do it. It's still causing problems. Maybe you're picking at your skin until you have scars. Maybe you're spending money you don't have on your collection. Maybe you're losing hours to elaborate daydreams when you have deadlines looming. Understanding why you do something doesn't automatically make it stop, and that can feel defeating. Here's what makes this complicated. Your brain doesn't care about your long-term goals. It cares about right now. In this moment, the behavior works. It soothes you immediately. The consequences come later. And later doesn't feel real to your nervous system when you're dysregulated. That's why just stop doesn't work. You're trying to override a survival mechanism with logic, and logic loses that fight every time. So knowing all this, what actually helps? First, stop asking, what's wrong with me? Start asking, what is this doing for me? When you catch yourself doing the behavior, don't shame yourself. Get curious. What were you feeling right before you started? Stressed? Bored? Overwhelmed? Anxious? Write it down if you need to. Not to stop yourself, just to notice. Because once you see the pattern, once you understand what triggers the need, you can start to address the actual problem. Let's say you realize you pick at your skin when you're anxious about work. The picking isn't the problem. The anxiety is. The picking is just how your body found to discharge that nervous energy. Now you have options. You can address the work anxiety directly. You can find other ways to discharge the energy. Squeeze a stress ball, do wall pushes, anything that gives your hands something to do and your body a physical outlet. Or maybe you realize you're not trying to stop it at all. Maybe once you understand that your stimming helps you focus, you stop trying to suppress it and just do it more intentionally. Get a fidget toy you actually like. Let yourself pace when you're thinking. Give yourself permission. Here's the thing most people don't realize. Some of these behaviors don't need to be fixed. They just need to be understood and accepted. If your collecting gives you joy and isn't causing problems, keep collecting. If your daydreaming is creative and fulfilling, lean into it. If your stimming helps you regulate, let yourself stim. The goal isn't to become someone without quirks. The goal is to understand what your quirks are doing for you, so you can decide intentionally whether they're helping or hurting. And here's what's really underneath all of this. You're not weird for needing to regulate yourself. You're human. Every single person on Earth has behaviors they use to manage their internal state. Some people go for runs. Some people organize their space. Some people cook elaborate meals. Some people scroll social media for hours. The specific form your regulation takes isn't what matters. What matters is whether you understand it and whether it's serving you. Because when you shame yourself for the behavior, you create more dysregulation, which makes you need the behavior more. You end up in this cycle where the shame feeds the need, feeds the shame. But when you understand what's happening, when you can look at yourself with genuine curiosity instead of judgment, something shifts. You're not fighting yourself anymore. You're working with yourself. So, the next time you catch yourself doing that thing, that weird thing you've been trying to stop, don't spiral into shame. Just notice it. Ask yourself what it's doing for you in that moment. And then decide, is this actually a problem? Or is this just your brain doing what brains do, finding patterns that work, seeking comfort in a world that often feels uncomfortable? Because maybe you're not broken at all. Maybe you're just human in a slightly different shape than you expected. And maybe that's exactly as it should be.